everyone, welcome back to another episode of HateRead. I'm Anna.
And I'm Em. Every fortnight here on HateRead, one of us challenges the other to read a book that we think they'll hate. This fortnight, I challenged Anna to read Message in a Bottle by Nicholas Sparks. So, first things first, Anna, did you finish the book?
I did.
Great.
Initial
Initial thoughts.
thoughts. I thought, and this is a spoiler for the end of the summary of this book, I thought it was a joke that...
I'm going to bleep that out. Just bleep out the part that's a spoiler so everybody has to listen to the end of the episode, because I'm sure they can't figure out what happens in a Nicholas Sparks book.
Well, it was so shoehorned in and so unnecessary that it really kind of gave me a little bit of whiplash. Like,
this is actually why I picked Nicholas Sparks. It didn't matter which Nicholas Sparks book, really, because they're basically all the same from the limited info I have.
Yeah.
So there's like a debate going around on Twitter in kind of like the romance writing community.
Yes, I was going to bring this up too.
Yes, about like whether or not Nicholas Sparks counts as a romance writer, which like on its face that seems kind of ridiculous because he's kind of known as being, he's like, if you think he's a name associated with romance books, right? Mm-hmm. But like actually no, like pretty much everything he writes isn't. I don't even know what it qualifies as, but yeah, it's not really romance, because the point that a lot of people were trying to make was that romance novels, like the definitive thing that makes a romance novel is that it has to have a happily ever after.
Yes.
And Nicholas Sparks is not into those.
No, I don't know if he has a single one.
I don't think so. Just, again, like I haven't read any of his other books, but I've seen some of the movies based on his other books, usually on accident.
Yeah, I don't normally go searching for those.
I'm usually like, this looks like a nice romance movie on Netflix. I'll watch this. And then, it's Nicholas Sparks.
Based on a novel by Nicholas Sparks.
Like, I get to the end and I'm like, oh my God, this seems like something Nicholas Sparks would write. And then it's like the credits and it's like based on the book by Nicholas Sparks. And I'm like, oh, well.
Oh, well, shit.
That explains it.
Why do so many of his books get made into movies?
I literally think all of them have been. I haven't checked that, but I feel like, because I intentionally tried to find one that wasn't a movie, but this one's a movie. Like, I just hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, from like the 90s.
Yeah. And I don't feel like any of them have really done well aside from The Notebook, right? Like, there's...
Walk to Remember.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. And then there was the Miley Cyrus one.
Mm-hmm. And wasn't Amanda Seyfried in one?
I think so.
Yeah.
But also I might be thinking of Mamma Mia. Unrelated.
Yeah.
Wasn't there the Zac Efron one? Is that what you just said? The Charlie St. Cloud, I think.
Is that a Nicholas Sparks?
I thought it was, but maybe
seem
not.
Like a Nicholas Sparks.
It seems sad sack enough to be Nicholas Sparks. I don't know. But yeah, I think like you have to define it as like a contemporary with romantic elements, or like a romantic tragedy or something. Like you can't just straight up say it's a romance, because that's not what people are expecting.
Right. And I almost feel like it's kind of its own genre at this point of like, it's a Nicholas Sparks book. Like what we were just saying, like Charlie St. Cloud. I don't know if that actually is a Nicholas Sparks book or not. Like, I don't know if he wrote that, but it's a Nicholas Sparks book, right? Like,
yeah, I'd believe it if he did.
Or was that one with Robert Pattinson?
And
9/11? Was that a Nicholas Sparks book? Or is that a Nicholas Sparks book? Like...
it might be a Nicholas Sparks book.
You're right. Like, I don't know if he actually wrote it, but he could have. Oh, man. Okay, so I guess we should kind of get into what happened in this book, although it's essentially nothing.
If we must.
So
boring. It was so boring then hilarious.
Here's the other thing with this book. Like I said, I've never read Nicholas Sparks, and I thought he was a good writer. Like, I assumed he was...
You would think after as many books as he'd written, but
it's not good. Like,
it's poorly written. It was like if it was like Nicholas Sparks' editor called him up and he was like, "Yo, you have this many words to reach You have, like, this is your word count that you have to reach. And if you don't, then we can't make this book into a movie. And so he, like, just started padding things out by being super repetitive.
Yeah, and just, like, a lot of his phrasing was really confusing. Just in like, I was like, why did you... Not like I didn't understand it, but, like, why did you phrase it that way? I don't get the word choice. And it was just, like, yeah, very boring in terms of style.
And for a person who writes romantic books, like, he's really bad at romantic dialogue.
Yeah, or sex scenes, man.
Yeah. It was all like, Teresa and Garrett, this is how the two main characters, this is how they talk to each other. I miss you. Oh, I missed you too. Like, I just wanted to call you and tell you I missed you. Wow, thank you. I also miss you. I can't wait to see you. Do you miss me? Yeah, I miss you. Like, that was every conversation they had.
Which, like, literally every conversation, because, like we said, there's not much plot to this book, so.
No.
Oh, okay.
Golly. So I guess we can dive into a
talking
summary.
about it. Yes.
All right. Teresa, divorced, single mother of a 12-year-old kid, Kevin, hasn't had a relationship since the divorce, hasn't had sex since the divorce, works as a columnist for the Boston Times and writes about parenting. She goes on vacation with her BFF/boss, Deanna. They go to Cape Cod?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. They go to Cape Cod, and she goes jogging early in the morning. And while she's jogging, she spies a bottle. Inside the bottle is a message. That's the title of the book, Message in a Bottle. It is a letter written from someone named Garrett to his dead wife, Catherine.
Well, but we don't know she's dead at this point.
Oh, that's right. She's just gone from him.
She's just gone from him. But
in a very permanent way.
The note I took for this was, this bitch better be dead, because if not, this is just hella creepy.
Yeah.
Like, the way, because, like, what's her face? Teresa is like, oh gosh, I don't know if she's dead or they've been separated. I just can't figure it out. There's no way to know. And I'm like, if she's not dead, this guy, I mean, like, I kind of got serial killer vibes off of this letter anyway.
Yeah, it was.
But it was, I don't know if it's because we're living in a, like, post-Me Too era, but, like, this letter was not cute.
No, it's not. Well, and then, like, it was written in this, like, really highfalutin,
yes,
like, pretentious way. And then you meet the guy, and he's nothing like that. And they never explain, like, why is Garrett such a sad sack
writer,
poet wannabe? Yeah.
And it's, again, the same thing. We've seen this in a couple other books. Like, the one that springs to mind is, of course, one of our early episodes, The Perfect Letter by Chris Harrison.
So good.
But it's that, and I think a couple other books we've read have done this too. Like, I think Da Vinci Code kind of does this, where it's like informed genius sort of thing. Because she reads the letter and she gives it to her boss, and they're both like, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever read ever.
They both cry.
And I'm like, this is not good, though. So, again, it's that thing where it's like, if you cannot write something astounding and beautiful, maybe just say they read the letter and, like, don't actually put the letter in the book, you know?
Don't go through the effort. Like...
Because it didn't go well.
It wasn't great. It was not good. And, like, so he, over the course of this, we get to see, like, 3 or 4 letters from him. Mm-hmm. They're all, like, the same.
Yeah. It's like buddy.
It's like, Nicholas Sparks put, like, all these sad words in a letter generator, and then it randomized 3 times, and these are the letters that came out.
Yes, it's so, like, let me see, because I know I highlighted the third one. Like, it literally does, though, sound like a serial killer to me. Like, it does not sound... I thought...
Like, could you imagine these letters being written in clipped-out letters from magazines and newspapers?
If I did not know that this was Nicholas Sparks writing this novel, I would have been like, oh, the twist is going to be Garrett killed Catherine. Like...
that would have been such a good book. Oh, my God, I'd read that.
Okay, so, like, the third... It goes... I'm going to try to find some, like, creepy serial killer music and put it behind this.
Yes, do it.
Without you in my arms, I feel an emptiness in my soul. I find myself searching the crowds for your face. I know it is an impossibility, but I cannot help myself. My search for you is a never-ending quest that is doomed to fail. Like, it's so gross. Till death do us part, we whispered in the church, and I've come to believe that the words will ring true until the day finally comes when I, too, am taken from this world. Like, what God. Is that?
I feel like I need a shower. That was disgusting. I feel grossed
This is some criminal mind shit, man.
Yeah. Garrett. So they find this stupid ass letter, and Deanna's boss is like, "Hey, you write a column about parenting. Let's publish this completely unrelated letter in your column." What? It's not a column for dead spouses.
And this kind of gets towards the end of the book, like, if there had been, it didn't make any sense that they included this in her column, and it didn't make any sense that people were into it, because again, it's not well written. Like,
no. But apparently housewives everywhere are crying over this because Teresa gets a billion fan mails about it.
Yeah.
One of the fans calls in, and she's like super creepy about it. She's like, "Who was that letter written by?" I don't want to tell you. You have to tell me. Who was it written by? I need to know. Garrett. Oh my God, I have another letter of his. Why didn't you lead with that?
Right. Like, just be like, "Hey, I found a message in a bottle in the last couple of years. It was written from someone named Garrett to someone named Catherine. Is that who yours was addressed to?" Like,
yes, be a normal person about it.
Why are you being weird about this? It's not like it's some big conspiracy where if you tell her first, she's going to be like, "Oh, yeah, mine was definitely written by Garrett too." Like, what would...
Yeah, it's not like I'm going to Lost and Found to pick up a rando cell phone. Like...
Very weird. Very weird.
And she, like, calls 100 times. Well, not 100, but she calls a bunch of times. Mm-hmm. And then each time she's like, "I'll wait on hold for an hour until I can talk to this woman." And Teresa's just, like, not answering her calls all day.
It's, like, not that big of a deal. Like, calm down.
Yeah. And this was written in the 90s, so it was, like, before there were cell phones. So she was racking up her long distance bill. Like, just
because
trying to tell this woman.
This woman is, like, so obsessed with the writing in this letter. Like, she's just like, "Oh, it's so beautiful, and I wish someone loved..." Like, she takes it out and reads it when her husband isn't, like, being...
Yes, that's so weird.
Like, a perfect husband. I don't know. I was like, that's weird and creepy, and just, I felt like a lot of
I've
people...
never told my husband I have this.
I'm like, I feel like a lot of people in this book just need therapy. Like...
Yeah, they just need to have some long conversations with somebody who can provide them some perspective.
Like, maybe you're just unhappy in your marriage.
Yeah, because this
is weird.
This is weird. So this is the second letter, and Teresa's starting to get some, like, she's, like, kind of crushing on Garrett at this point, which
is
totally
also weird.
Blows my mind.
Right.
Yes. And then, so she is like, maybe I can find more of these letters if I search the library catalog for messages in bottles. And I guess she looks up the equivalent of, like, LexisNexis.
Yeah.
Is that something we used in high school? I don't remember. And she finds what she thinks is another Garrett letter in a magazine called Yankee Magazine that did an article about messages in bottles. And so she coerces the author of the article to give her a copy of the letter, because for some reason, again, he is, like, very attached to this letter and doesn't want it to get in the wrong hands or something.
Right. But also she's, like, not just like, "Oh, hey, I found another, like, letter that I think is from the same guy. Could you confirm this?" She, like,
why wouldn't you just tell the fucking truth?
Right. Yeah. She, like, makes up this whole story, like, we're trying to publish an article about messages in bottles, but, like, not the same thing you did, like, just about where they end up.
Human interest.
And, like, but we want to add some human interest, so we wanted to publish the whole letter. And it's like...
And she gives him $300 of her own dollars for it. I was so bewildered.
But also, in the research, when she's doing her research of this also got into what I consider to be Teresa's defining character trait, which is she just doesn't have time. How many times did they say that in this book?
She's a mother. She doesn't have time.
But here's the thing. How does she not have time? Because every time she doesn't have time for anything. It's like she wished she could hang out with her son more, but she just didn't have time. Or like, and then later it's like, she wished she could go to work events more, but she just didn't have time. And then like when she's researching this, it's like, she's like, well, she could have searched in the whole text of the article or just in the headline. And she decided to just look in the headlines because she didn't have time.
She just doesn't have any time.
Like literally through the entire book, everything is she doesn't have time. But like, I don't know what she's doing that she doesn't have time for things, because she's not hanging out with her son.
Because she does nothing in the book. Yeah.
She's not hanging out with her son because at one point, there's like a very specific point where like she asks Kevin something, that's the son, and who's 12 years old, by the way. So also I'm like, how much time does a 12-year-old take? I'm not saying parenting isn't hard, but like, it's not like she's, you know, like bottle feeding him. And
yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, he's 12. He's doing his own things. He's going to soccer by himself and she's picking him up and stuff. And I'm like, you know, the transport would take some of your time, but like not all of it. And also they make a point that Kevin is helping with chores around the house. So she's not like just constantly doing housework.
Right.
And then also at one point she like asks Kevin a question and Kevin answers, and then it's like, oh, and then Kevin just went back to doing whatever it was he was doing. So she doesn't even know what her kid is doing. Like what is she doing with her time? And she writes this one column a week, which again, I'm not
300
saying,
words.
I'm not saying writing isn't hard, but like,
right.
What are you doing that you don't have time for anything? I don't understand.
She's busy ignoring phone calls and stalking a man that she's never met before.
Yeah, because then she, like, full on just, like, straight up doxes this guy.
Yes. At the insistence of her boss. Yes. Her best friend boss, who says, Teresa, you need to get out there more since the divorce and find a man that you think you'll like. So you should go find this guy, Garrett.
Mm-hmm.
Because that makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
Clearly Okay, so they find out that he's a diving instructor in Wilmington, North Carolina. If you remember, this woman works for the Boston Times, which is in Massachusetts. This book was definitely written by a man because no single woman from Boston is going to go down to North Carolina by herself to meet a man that she's never even talked to before. And
then she goes out on a boat with him.
Yes! She was just asking to be killed. I really wish he was a serial killer now.
So that when she finally meets up with him, she meets up, sees his boat that he repaired, this like ancient boat, and she's like, oh, I've never been sailing before. He's like, well, do you want to go tonight? And she's like, sure. And that's like the first conversation they have. I'm like, no.
She wasn't afraid at all.
No woman would agree to that.
I said, I would be like, no, we're going to have coffee in the middle of the day in the most crowded cafe I can think of. Like, what?
Why are you agreeing to this, you crazy person?
Oh my gosh. But, and then also, can we talk about, they're like trying to figure out where in Wilmington this guy is, and or which of the beaches near Wilmington. And they're like, maybe like Wrightsville Beach. She's like, Wrightsville Beach? I've never heard of that. So she searches for it on the internet, and the text, it says she gets back 3 search results for Wrightsville Beach, which I thought was absolutely hysterical.
It was a different time.
Let me Google it right now. I'm going to Google it right now. I want to see how big the internet has grown since 1998. I have about 4,800,000 results.
It was a different time.
It was
Women weren't afraid of getting murdered on boats, and the internet was smaller.
It was in its infancy.
But also, can we talk about real quick when she goes to find this guy and goes to his shop, and there's just like...
Yeah, so he owns a scuba diving shop.
Yeah, he owns a scuba shop, and he's just got like articles about himself on the wall. And, like, there's like 5, and I'm like, how?
And we hear about all of them.
Why is anybody reporting on this stuff? I don't understand. Because the articles are like, man restores old boat. Like, why would someone report that? That's weird.
And he wants her to move to Wilmington to become a reporter.
Right. So
it's just because he wants someone to write articles about him.
Yes, that was his long game the whole time. He murdered his wife.
He wasn't a serial killer, just a narcissist.
He was. He murdered his wife so that he could send out these messages. So that a reporter would find them and publish them. So that she would move to Wilmington.
He's playing, like, 4D chess. Like,
it's the long con, man.
Absolutely amazing. Garrett is truly a mastermind. So, and then can we also can we talk about that when she goes and she meets Garrett for the first time, this whole book has been from Teresa's point of view.
Yes, my God.
The most awkward shift in point of view I've ever read in my life. It is literally Teresa's point of view, a line of dialogue, and then Garrett's point of view from like
so
then on
jarring.
It
goes back and forth, and every time it feels jarring. But the first time I was just like, "Oh, we're doing this now."
Yeah, in the middle of a chapter where we have just met this man, this man character, and it was only so that Garrett could tell us how beautiful he thought Teresa was.
Which was again another sign that a man wrote this book. As you texted me.
Oh my God, we get a whole description on Teresa's boobs.
Also, Catherine's, I think. We talk about her boobs. We talk about everyone's boobs, I think, in this book. Do we talk about Deanna's?
Probably. So I just searched breasts. There's 5 results in this book for breasts. But the one I'm referring to are... This is such...
It's like, it's literally the... really cliche thing that I feel like gets attributed to YA a lot more than like adult fiction, but it's like I was
looked in the mirror.
Yeah, I was standing in a mirror and looked at myself and looked at my but like the first thing she's like is like she looked in the mirror and she had nice boobs. And it's like
no, it was her breasts had always been smallish, and though it had bothered her when she was younger, she was glad now because they hadn't started to sag or droop like those of other women her age.
Oh,
excuse me.
Like fuck you, man.
Dude, seriously.
Which gets into the weird ageism thing with her. Where like because we find out Garrett is 4 years younger than her, and they keep bringing it up. I'm like, they're in their 30s.
You're
like,
both consenting adults.
down.
No one gives a shit.
And it's not even like, okay, I could see 4 years being maybe a big deal if you were like 20 and 24 because one of you is in college. And...
I'm glad you didn't say 20 and 16.
Oh, yeah, no, that would be a problem for a different reason. But also, yes, that would be a problem. But like in the adult world, like 20, 24, I'm like, okay, you're at different points in your life. But like, they're both in their 30s. They've both been married before. Like, they need to calm down.
Yeah. If it was going to be, like, such a weird thing for them to mention, but something that, like, totally didn't even matter at all, why not just make them the same age?
Right. But there was a lot of that. Like, her whole thing about not having time.
I don't have time.
It didn't get resolved in any way. It wasn't like that was... She learned to, like, have time for things. That wasn't, like, the message of the book.
She just continued to live a hectic life.
Just continued to not have time.
Maybe it was Nicholas Sparks that didn't have time to flesh out his characters.
He was like, gosh, I'm writing 3 books. Actually, I feel like he doesn't... Does he write that many books, though? Like...
I don't know.
He's been writing a long time.
I can think of, like, 5.
He's not like a James Patterson, where he's got...
Oh, yeah, he's certainly
where
not
I'm going to get Kindle alerts
every
week for the rest of my life because I bought a James Patterson book once.
Oh, my God.
That there's a new James Patterson
slow
book.
Your roll.
Like, we don't care.
Let me see. I'm going to look up... Okay, published works. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 22 books. He's written since 1990. Mm-hmm. So, that's like roughly a book a year.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like...
Yeah.
And let's see, of those, how many were adapted into film and TV?
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And even more disturbing, CW is coming out with an untitled The Notebook follow-up.
Fantastic. Great.
Why?
Wanted
Stop
that.
it. Stop it, CW.
Okay, so...
Oh, God. I'm looking at his headshot on Wikipedia, and his eyes are, like... staring into my soul. It's very intense, and I don't like it at all. Stop it, Nicholas Charles Sparks.
Obviously, what that means is that you two are destined to be together, and you need to move across the country to be with him.
No, he lives in Omaha. No, thank you. Oh, no, that's just where he was born.
I was gonna say, that's where, What's-Her-Face was from in this book.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Which I only remember because on their second date, when he makes her steak, he says, and this is one of the things that I was like, this is such weird phrasing, and I don't understand why this is phrased that way. Let me find it real quick. Or I guess it's actually their third date because they go to the restaurant. But he says, I was thinking of cooking some steaks on the grill, but then I got to wondering if you ate things like that. Like, what is that? What does that mean?
That's so weird.
And then she responds like, oh, I grew up in Nebraska, so of course I like steak. And I'm like, but, okay, like, I would get it if you were like, oh, are you a vegetarian?
Yeah, or do you have any, like,
but this is, like, the third time they've eaten together, so, like, that should have come up already.
Yeah, like, when he first suggested seafood to her, and she wasn't like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's very weird phrasing, and I'm just like, what do you mean, ate things like that? It's not like
human food. Or do you eat pellets?
Right.
Are you on a liquid-only diet?
Or even, like, if you're like, hey, I was thinking, curry, do you like spicy food? Like, that would kind of make sense.
Yeah.
Do you like stuff like that? Like, that would make some sort of sense. Mm-hmm. But, like,
I just don't know if you eat stuff like that.
I don't know if you eat a grilled piece of meat. Like, no, I'm opposed. Unless she was a vegan or a vegetarian, which we know she's not, because they've eaten together before.
Yeah.
It's very weird. Anyway,
I don't know if he's heard normal people talk in a relationship, and it makes me very, like, just sad for his marriage, I guess. I don't know. So they have their sailing date. She doesn't get murdered, unfortunately. But she does conveniently, like, forget her jacket on his boat, and that's forget in quotations, because she definitely did it on purpose. And then she calls him the next day and be like, have you seen my jacket? And of course it's on the boat, so she has to go and retrieve it. And they have lunch, a beach walk, and then dinner, and then sex.
Before they ask the lunch thing, because kind of going with the jacket thing, there's this whole part where she's like getting the jacket, and she's like, what's good to eat around here, Garrett? And he's like,
oh my gosh, it's so painful.
And he's like, there's like a good, place to get like fish and, some, like, it's really good food. Like, it's great. It's fish. And I'm like, okay, you need to calm down. But then, and she's like, oh, that sounds good. And then, like, just stares at him. And then he's like, do you want me to come with? And she's like, oh, yeah, sure, that'd be great. You can drive. And earlier it said something about, like, she didn't want to ask him out because she knew that would ruin it. And I'm like, this is so gross and, like, fucking heteronormative and shit and just, like, patriarchal. And, like, I might be a little riled up because if you look at the date that this was recorded on, it was a week before it was posted. You can kind of see there's some stuff going on. But I was just like, fuck Garrett, and fuck her for being like, oh, I can't possibly ask him out. That would just ruin everything. I need to stand here and awkwardly stare at him until he asks me to go to lunch with him. Like, what is wrong with you? I couldn't
possibly, You're an adult. Charge of my own sexuality.
You're an adult in your 30s and you have a 12-year-old. You need to grow up. Yes. Like, this is insane.
Well, she also said something weird about sex earlier in the book. Let me see if I can find it. Because it really stuck out to me. It was weird.
It's like she doesn't want to have sex unless there's emotions with it or something like that, which, like, okay, that's fine, but the way it's phrased is, like, again, just kind of like, Teresa, you need to, like,
sex was too important, too special to be shared with just anyone. In fact, she had slept with only 2 men in her life, David, of course, which is her ex-husband, and Chris, the first real boyfriend she'd ever had. She didn't want to add to the list simply for the sake of a few minutes of pleasure. Like,
right, like, it's like,
why? I just hate that.
If you are, I think it's the thing where she says she didn't want to add to the list. I'm like, okay, if the reason was you legitimately don't want to have sex outside of a committed relationship because you feel that it's a very emotional thing for you and you need to have that stability, that's cool, I get it. Like, that's your choice, that's fine. But you have sex with this guy, like, 3 minutes after meeting him, so number one. But number two, like, if your reason is because you don't want your number to be higher, like, that's some internalized misogyny, girl. You gotta go work that out.
Well, It's not even internalized because this was written by a man.
Oh, yeah, I mean...
Which is...
I mean, the character.
Yeah, the character definitely.
But yeah, Nicholas
but
Sparks
also
is
Nicholas
just,
Sparks
straight up
sucks.
misogyny, though. Like...
Yeah. That, yeah. Gross. I just can't... It's just so obvious that this was written by a man.
And that was the thing. I was like, why didn't he write from Garrett's perspective for the majority of this? Like, why did he even bother? Anyway. So they go out.
Yeah, and then they have lots of sex, and then they decide they want to try a long-distance relationship.
Which, okay. Like, you guys have known each other. And literally, after the end of... Because she says she's there for vacation... because, you know, she doesn't have any time, but she has time to do this. But
she has no vacation time now.
But so she, like, at the end of this, he's like, I think I'm falling in love with you. And at first she's like, oh, cool, great, awesome. But then she gets home and she's like, oh, he thinks
yeah,
he's
what the fuck is that shit?
Girl, you have known each other approximately 5 seconds. You need to pump the brakes yourself, and you need to not be judging him for being like, maybe. Because you shouldn't even think that at this point, in my opinion. Y'all have known each other literally 7 days. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
He's allowed to not
You're
be
very
sure.
much in the honeymoon period still.
Right.
So they then take part in what has to be one of the most expensive long distance relationships I've read about, because they are just flying buying their plane tickets the day of and going to visit each other in insanely large amount of times. Yes. I think. Like
it's like almost a year is the time from when she finds the bottle. Well, no, it's more than a year, I think. Well, maybe not.
I think it's like a year and a half, maybe.
Because she goes back in the off-season.
Because they go through Thanksgiving, and, the summer vacation... The book starts on her summer vacation, and then, it gets all the way to past, Thanksgiving with him, but not quite till Christmas. I don't think.
Okay, so it's not even a year, and they seem to be flying back and forth at least once a month, because anytime it's longer than that, Garrett starts whining about how he hasn't seen her in over a month. Which, again, I'm just like, how long is this going on for? I don't know. It was a mess.
And plane tickets were probably a lot cheaper than they are
true.
now, comparatively, but
And you didn't have to deal with airport security as much, so you didn't have to get there 3 hours in advance.
That's true. But there's just so many scenes of Garrett flies home early, and then Teresa immediately follows him, or something.
The first time that they meet back up is a week later. Yeah. And she brings her son. Girl,
which
stop.
Normally you would think that you wouldn't want to introduce your kid to your significant other until you were pretty sure that they were going to be in your life for a long period of time.
Or no, it's a week later. Literally knew what their middle name was, because I'm sure they haven't even gotten to that point yet. I don't know. I feel like the standards, and that was the thing. I feel like the standards in general were so low in this book. Specifically for men. Sorry, we're back on this shit. But here's the thing. From the beginning, when she's like, "Oh, David, the ex-husband, he wasn't a good husband, but he was a good father to Kevin." And I'm like, was he though? Was he? He seems pretty terrible. He immediately moved back to California after they broke up, which not because he had a job out there or because he was getting married to someone out there. He moved out there just because that's where he was from originally. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. California's nice. The weather's probably better than Boston, but I don't know. Maybe move somewhere where you can see your kid more than once a year. And then it's talking about the new family and whatever that he has, and it's oh, he has his new wife Annette or whatever, who gets along well with Kevin but seems to be busy with the baby, so she can't really deal with Kevin or whatever. And I'm like, if your kid is visiting you for 6 weeks and your new wife is busy with the baby and can't be is still at the stage where she's busy with the new kid and can't go on these trips that you're doing with your son, I don't know, you need to take that baby for a while and let your kid bond with his stepmom, Like, you can't just jet away to Disneyland for 6 weeks and leave your new wife
just
with
leave this
new
woman
baby.
with a new
but that's
baby.
literally what's happening. Like, that's literally what he's doing. I'm like, he's a terrible dad. And then, like...
Well, and then they said, too, like, at the beginning, like, she found out he had been cheating. That Teresa found out that David had been cheating on her since 5 months into their marriage.
Yeah,
what?
Like, okay, so he's just trash. He's, like, complete trash.
Yeah, he's human garbage.
But, like, and I mean, she doesn't give him a pass for the cheating thing. She's like, it was terrible.
Right.
But, like, I don't know. He's not a good dad. Because also part of being a good dad is, like, not treating the women you're with like shit, because then you're modeling, like, bad behavior for your son, who's going to internalize that and then treat the women he, like, you know? Like, I'm like,
But it's okay, because he found Christ, so...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that part.
So he stopped being a womanizer and instead bundled all his love into Jesus.
He stopped being a womanizer that we know of.
Well, that's true. I mean, yeah, he's not going to call up Teresa and be like, cheated on my wife, my new wife. Maybe you guys can talk about that and bond.
But, like, also just, like, Garrett, the standards for him are just, like... So, well, let me find... Actually, not even Garrett. Let me find the... Just in general...
Her list of things,
yes. Because I know let me find the note I took.
Must love my son is basically it.
Yeah. Yeah, literally the note I had the most for this book was the standards are so low. But she said, okay, so here's her list of things that she wants. She wants not in a motorcycle gang, because that was the thing Deanna was, like, teasing her about, was like, oh, you wouldn't mind that, right? So she says, not in a motorcycle gang. Faithful.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
Someone her age or close to it seems fine. Like,
okay.
Handsome, kind, intelligent, charming. And spends time with Kevin. Athletic. She would like to receive flowers. And that's it.
And she makes the comment several times that she wants her man to be a man.
Yeah, a real man. A real man. And I'm like, okay, but the response Deanna gives is like, okay, so you want someone faithful, charming, handsome, 30-something, intelligent, romantic, athletic, good with Kevin. And she's like, yep. And she goes, well, at least you're not picky. Like, I don't feel like any of that is that picky.
She wanted a decent person.
Right, I'm like, okay, like, I could see athletic, that's kind of getting picky, but, like, intelligent, I'm sure, it's, like, intelligent. Okay, someone that is on, like, that she's not gonna get bored in a conversation with. I'm sure she's not gonna be, like, you have to have an IQ of 135. Like, you know. Her age seems fine. Faithful, obviously. Handsome, that's subjective. Charming, that's subjective. Romantic, okay, so yeah, that whole, like, oh, I want him to send me flowers thing, I'm like, whatever. But, you know, if you want that, you want that, sure. That's not that crazy of a list. Like, that's...
No. That's pretty
standard.
Normal.
Like,
and you know what? Like, your best friend should be like, you're right, you do deserve that. She shouldn't be like,
at least you're not picky, bitch.
You think you think you can have all of that?
You want someone who's good with your kid? Good luck. Like,
yeah, you do realize you're a divorcee with a 12-year-old.
You fool. You stupid fool. Like,
you're almost 40. Your worth as a woman has been in major decline since you were
so low. Jesus. Fucking garbage. But yeah, that was just like throughout this whole book. Just I was like, nobody, the standards for being in a relationship are low. The standards for, like, what you're looking for are low. The standards for, like, what makes a good person are low. Because also, haven't mentioned this yet, Teresa's a piece of shit also. She threw a fucking vase at her ex's head, which is fucking abusive. Like, I get it. He cheated, but, like...
But also, you trying to cause him, like...
Actual physical harm. Not okay, you need a therapist.
He never did that to you.
Right.
Yeah. Like...
And that's the thing, they laugh it off. Like, she tells Garrett this, and Garrett's like, well, he deserved it. I'm like, you guys are terrible. You're terrible people.
They're not nice people. And maybe that's why they got along so well. I don't know.
They bonded over their shittiness.
Yeah, like, he possibly killed several women. And she also shows violent tendencies, so he was like, maybe I can groom her.
It's a Joker Harley sort of situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though Harley Poison Ivy is the superior ship. Anyway.
So they go on this series of back and forth. Like, so they go to Wilmington with her son, and they get scuba certifications, and that's a whole chunk of the book for some reason. Like, in depth, we have to do this to get our scuba certification.
Well, that was their whole relationship, was him teaching her things. Like, literally every date they went on was, oh, I don't know how to sail. That's okay, I'll show you how to sail. Oh, I don't know what type of fish this is to eat. Oh, it's okay, you can eat that fish. Oh, I don't know how to cook a steak. Oh, I'll show you how to cook a steak. I don't know how to scuba dive. Oh, yeah, I'll show you and your dumb kid how to scuba dive. Like, that was their whole relationship.
That's true. She never taught him anything.
Well, she tried the one time when they go to Boston, and she's like,
yeah, she took him to all the fancy places.
I want to expand your horizon. He's like, this is crap. I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it. I'm never moving here, so fuck this. Like,
yeah, so which is like kind of a sign to me that maybe you guys are feeling really like physically attracted to each other, but there's not a lot of basis for something long term. But, you know, whatever. This is the be all to end all relationship. You're right, Teresa and Garrett. Let's see. They do the back and forth, and then they're like, I'm tired of this. Because I guess, like, they made plans for Thanksgiving, and she had to bail last minute. I don't know, because I, like, skimmed hardcore. I read, like, 3 words a page for
conversation he has with his dad. Chunk. Where first he's like, I want us to... like, or he's like bummed out that she skips Thanksgiving, and his dad's like, well,
like a small child.
Right. And his dad's like, well, you're being petulant, and also you should get married. And then like 2 days later, he's like, Dad, you're right, I'm gonna marry her. And his dad's like, whoa, pump the brakes.
Hold on a second. Why do you want to marry her? And he's like, I thought you wanted me to marry her. And he's like, I just want to make sure you want to marry her for the right reason.
It's so dumb. It's like literally Nicholas Sparks couldn't be bothered to create a second character for Garrett to talk to that would have a different opinion.
Just have made Garrett's mom alive.
Right.
I don't know.
And have the mom be like, y'all being insane.
Yeah, because this is the stupid thing. So, like, Garrett's mom died when he was young, and so, like him, his father lost a wife. And so his dad is, like, trying to give him all of this advice about, like, you need to move on from her. This isn't what she would have wanted. You need to pursue Teresa because I think you'd be really well together. You shouldn't be scared of this. I'm here to push you into a new relationship. And then Garrett turns around and is like, well, how come you never got married again or had another woman in your life? And the dad's like, you think I could have found someone good enough to replace her?
Right, like...
So, one, we're implying that, like, Catherine wasn't very good, I guess.
Was trash. She was just the worst.
Catherine was trash. So, and also that, like, why is your situation... Like, why couldn't you just said, like, I regret it?
Also, like, Teresa does the reverse thing where she's talking to Garrett, and she's like, you need to get over this. I've also had a relationship end, so we're the exact same, and I'm over it, so you need to be over it. And it's like, girl, his wife died.
Yes, in a very sudden and traumatic way. She was hit by a car and was also pregnant, and so she and the baby
Something
died.
We find out slowly throughout the book in flashbacks.
No, it's not slowly, because the second anyone, like, writes a female character is suddenly not feeling well in the morning and feels completely fine by the afternoon.
I wonder what's going on.
Pregnant. That is not like a stretch of the imagination. No. Like that is not a surprise twist. Like we knew immediately she was pregnant.
Even before that, when like multiple times they say like Deanna and Teresa are like, oh, I wonder if they have kids. Oh, they didn't mention it in the letter. I'm like, oh, I bet she was pregnant. And then later when it's a flashback and like Catherine's like, I was going to my sister's wedding and one of the bridesmaids was pregnant and she didn't even fit her dress and it caused such a commotion and I just feel so unsettled. And I'm like, girl, you pregnant.
Yeah.
We get it.
We get it. You're pregnant. This is, like, you're not J.D. Salinger. Like, we get it. You're pregnant. Like,
stop doing this to us. Stop torturing us. But yeah, everybody's, like, really shitty to, like, I don't like Garrett, but everyone's real shitty about his wife dying. And
yes. They're like, get over it. Like, at least, like, and I know both deaths are very traumatic, but, like, his mother had cancer. They would have been able to prepare for that in some way, emotionally and physically, whatever. With a car accident, though, like, you don't see that coming whatsoever. She had just told him she was pregnant and then goes out and gets hit by a car.
But stayed alive long enough that she was at the hospital and he, like, held her hand while she died just to add, like, more trauma to it.
Yeah.
Like,
that I didn't care about.
Right.
Again,
I mean, who cares?
Just, like, over it.
Oh, man.
So, Garrett, on one of his trips to Boston, just suddenly asked Teresa to move to Wilmington. And she's like, I have a life here with my son, who goes to school here and is in a lot of events and things. Let me just think about it. I'm gonna go take a step out, be by myself for a second, get some wine, think about what you've said, and we'll come back and discuss it. And Garrett's like, that's unacceptable, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna be pouty about it. And goes, like, creeping through all of her stuff and finds the letters and gets super skeeved out. Because Teresa hasn't brought them up this entire time.
Right.
Which is very weird.
I hate any, like, rom-com, romance novel, whatever, where the premise is we're gonna meet and I'm gonna lie to you about the situation that we met, you know?
Yep. I hate that so much. I hate it.
Gross. I'm like...
It is very gross.
And he's not... This is the thing. They're both terrible people. He's not great either because he's being a little shithead and he's, like, going through her shit. But, like, also, girl, why do you still have those?
Yeah, why didn't you, like, shred them or leave them at work?
Or throw them away. You just...
Throw them away. Just do something else with them. Like, they're all in print.
Oh, man.
And, like, did she think he was never going to find out about that? Like,
I guess.
I'm sure her column is in syndication. Like,
yeah.
I thought that he was going to see it in one of the Wilmington newspapers. That's what I thought was going to happen.
That is, I was going to be like, oh, it's weird that you gave Teresa that letter to Catherine to print in her column.
Oh, that would have been good.
Right,
too.
that would have been...
See?
But no, it was just he snooped through her shit and found it. So they get in a fight.
Yeah, and he just leaves. But it's okay because Teresa follows him immediately. And they have makeup sex. Bit. Yeah, they have makeup sex, and then she breaks up with him. LOL. Right. Like, what?
She's like, you're clearly not over Catherine. And it's like, girl, you're not over Catherine.
That's why it upset you so much. It's because you're not over her. No, I mean, I'm kind of on Garrett's side. It was a little bit of an invasion of privacy that you took his letter.
Yeah, no, it was creepy. Like, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. So, he's all sad sack about it. And it's like, it's so weird, though, because they had this big fight, and then they just show up and immediately embrace and have sex.
Then break up.
There's no conversation about this is why we argued, or, like, I'm sorry I did that
also,
to you.
Doesn't she show up at his dad's house?
No, I think his dad is just at his house.
But his dad is there.
Yeah, his dad is there, which is
and I definitely, I might have been because I was skimming, but I don't recall his dad leaving.
He does. He says goodbye.
I missed that, so I was definitely, like, picturing them upstairs.
Quietly sitting in the
he's
kitchen.
He's just, like, sipping his tea, like, well, I'm not needed now.
They haven't asked me to leave. Oh. So some time passes, and Teresa gets a call from Garrett's dad. This is like maybe a month or two. I don't know. And he calls her, and he says, hey, can you just come to Wilmington? Because there's something important I need to tell you. What? Okay. First of all, you should lead with the reason they should come visit you, because it's kind of a long trip from Boston to North Carolina for her to make spur of the moment, but sure. Secondly, the news is that LOL Garrett died. Like, you should also tell her that on the phone before she comes to Wilmington and is, like, expecting to see him. So,
but also,
what happened?
Here's the thing. Like, what could she have possibly thought the news was gonna be?
It's like, why would you be like, okay, I'm totally fine with this?
You've met this man one time. You dated his son for, like, a few months and had, like, a bad breakup. What world are you living in where the news isn't, like, literally the only reason I can think of for an ex's father to call me is if that ex is dead.
Yeah.
And even then, like, probably not.
Or, like, it was like X had an STD and he didn't want to tell anybody, so I'm telling you.
But even that, I'm
but
like,
also, again, that is just that you don't have to come to the person.
And I would hope if my ex's father was like, my child had an STD and I need to tell you about it, I really would appreciate it. Just, okay, for anyone I might date in the future, for anyone's parents, just so you know, if it turns out your child has an STD and you know that we were dating and you're worried about my health, please tell someone else to tell me. Please do not make that call yourself.
Don't make it any more traumatic.
Right, like, I don't want to hear that from my ex's dad.
Please.
Oh.
What if your ex's dad called your parents and then your parents
God.
you? Would that be worse?
You made it worse. I don't know, just send me, like, literally send me a message in a bottle. That would be the best way to do it. Just be like, I've done my duty.
Landlocked states, I guess we'll just throw it into a wheat field and see if it ends up anywhere near you.
Oh, Jesus.
So this is how Garrett died.
So stupid.
He went out sailing while there was a storm on the horizon because he had written a letter to his dead wife explaining that he was in love with Teresa or some shit, and he was moving on from her and just wanted to let her know. So he puts it all in a bottle and he's going to drive out to sea the same path he took every time he threw a bottle out to sea, except for the storm is moving really fast and his boat gets caught up in it, capsizes, and he starts to swim to shore, but his clothes and his shoes are weighing him down, and I guess he drowns because they find his body a couple days later.
Which, like, the dad is telling her this. He's like, there was a storm at sea. Garrett was caught in it. And she's like, oh.
Is he dead?
No. She's like, oh, what happened? And he's like, well, they found him today. And she's,
well, where is
he? Oh, is he at the hospital? Girl, nobody would call you to come down here if that was what the situation was. He is obviously dead.
Oh my God. They found his body.
So stupid.
Okay, but, like, was he still alive? Oh my God, she's so dumb. She's so dumb. There was, like, I honestly thought it was just a joke that all of Nicholas Sparks' books ended with the main character dying.
With someone dying.
But this was such a stupid, pointless death. Like, this book, I would have had so much more respect for this book if it had just ended. It was just like a snapshot of a relationship that they thought was going to be really awesome and then ended poorly. Like, that in itself is a good enough story.
Well,
we don't need to tack on,
not the way this was written.
It's good, not the way this was written. In the hands of a more talented author, that would have been a good enough story. But then this death was just tacked on to the end like some sort of sick tragedy porn. I don't understand why it was necessary. They could have just never spoke again. And it literally would have been
someone
exactly
must die in order for Sparks to be satiated.
We must sacrifice another character to the monster of Sparks.
Oh my God. But yeah, so then, like, at the very end, she goes and writes her own message to Garrett and puts it in a bottle.
A year later at Cape Cod and throws it out to sea.
And it's like, oh, journey came full circle. Good times. Nothing changed. Her life is literally exactly the same as it was a year ago, except she has this, like, sad blip.
Except now she's even sadder.
Oh, and she knows how to scuba dive.
And she does. And so they had her and her son go to Key West to scuba dive.
So good for her, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's a new hobby now that she can attract.
But how will she have time for scuba diving?
I just don't have any time. Oh, it was so bad.
I did not think it was going to be this bad.
No, I thought it would be, like, somewhat trashy, but,
and I
like,
thought it would
readable.
Be actually sad. Like, I thought I would cry, but I'm like,
yeah,
no.
I thought there would be, yeah. It was hilarious.
It was so
I busted out laughing when I read that he died. Like, oh
and
my
I mean,
God.
like, I knew it was coming, but I didn't know which one it was going to be. You know, could have been her, could have been this is how he
think I would've
learned to live again or whatever, through yet another person he loved dying. But no.
I thought it was going to be Kevin for a while because she, like, went on and on so much about,
how
like...
perfect Kevin was and how great Kevin was.
And his schedule and how perfect, just such a great son he was and how she really needed a man that was good with her son.
I don't think Nicholas Sparks kills kids, though. I think it's almost always...
That's
the...
Put that on the back of your next
Doesn't
book,
kill
Nicholas
kids.
Sparks. I don't think he kills kids.
I'm pretty sure there's one, and I've seen the movie of it. I'm pretty sure there's one that ends with the romantic interest, and it's a very notebooky situation where, like, they knew each other in childhood, and then they grew apart, and then she ended up with someone else, and then they got back together. But, like, so the romantic interest dies, and I could be making this up. If anyone knows which book this is, please at me. But I think there's one where the romantic interest dies, and they use his organs for her kid. To save her kid's life or something. I think. So I think, like, kids are...
I don't like that.
It's definitely, there's something with, like, organ donation in it. And I feel like...
My lover is inside you, child.
Well, that was kind of in this, too. Like, every time Kevin, like, when it was from Garrett's perspective of Kevin, it was like, oh, he looks just like Teresa. And Teresa looked so beautiful. I'm like, what is this? Ooh, like, there was... It was just, like, always weirdly... Like, because, of course, he's always talking about how beautiful Teresa is. That was another one of the ones that I highlighted that I was like, this is just so weirdly phrased. And if someone said this to me, I would break up with them instantly. Where he was like... You're so beautiful. You are the most beautiful woman who got off the plane. And I'm like, what?
Oh.
What? Like,
okay.
That's weird. Why did you feel the need to tell me that?
Because he just talks like a child. They're like two teenagers in their first relationships. It's so, like...
Ugh.
Also, I looked up, while we were talking about killing kids, I looked up Charlie St. Cloud because I thought the kid died in that. It's not written by Nicholas Sparks.
Good.
It's a Nicholas Sparks book, but it's not a Nicholas Sparks book. It's a Ben Sherwood book.
I'm glad we solved that one. So that'll be going on our list of books to read eventually.
Oh yeah, but we might like it. Who knows?
It can't be as bad as this crap. So...
Oh my god.
What if... Go ahead.
I was going to ask that. It was Nasty Heart Garbo, but did you have a silver lining?
I honestly thought... Here's the thing. I had two, and I had to discard one halfway through because it turned out... My original silver lining was going to be, this distracted me from the hot garbage fire that is our nation. But... It ended up not doing that because a lot of things in it reminded me of it.
It just proved the problem had been so pervasive for so long.
So my actual silver lining is that this book made me grateful for online dating. Because although I might get frustrated with Tinder and Hinge and whatever else is the, dating app du jour, I never feel... as Teresa does in this book, where she's like, there are just no people in my area who could possibly be, like, who could possibly fit my needs. Just, it's impossible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If anything, I feel like there are too many people near me that would, be okay to date. So, like, this made me grateful that that is a technology that exists, that I do not have to resort to picking glass bottles off the beach and hoping that someone wrote a sad letter to their dead wife from them and then stalking them. So that was mine. How about you?
God bless the internet. Mine was boring. I liked reading about North Carolina beaches.
Yeah. That was the one thing when they were like debating where they should move. Mm-hmm. And she was like, well, I've got a son, I've got a job. I'm like, yeah, but he's got a beach house, man.
He's got a beach house, and you are thinking about staying in
Boston?
Boston?
Like, come on.
Like, I know you got Dunkin' Donuts up there, but he's got a beach house.
Like, on the beach.
And that area is super gorge. I can definitely... I lost my train of thought. Shit.
Attest to how... Yeah?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can definitely attest to that because I got married on a beach in North Carolina in that area. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we often vacation there.
So, yeah, I agree. That was fun. I like that.
Yeah, I was like, I know these words, these places. I lived near Chapel Hill for a while. That's where Garrett went to college.
I picked up on that too. I was like, oh, I've seen signs from there when visiting Anna back in the day.
Yeah, I desperately want to move back to North Carolina. I love it. It's beautiful place.
So, did you relate to anybody in this book?
No, I tried really
I think
hard.
Kevin.
No one.
Kevin
this
was
book
the closest, just for the one line where he was like, "Is my mom ever not going to be sad?" And I'm like, "Yeah, is she? No, probably not."
No, probably not.
But yeah, everybody else was garbage.
She was cursed. Everything she touched turned to garbage.
It was rough.
I'm sorry, Kevin. She's just gonna now be the helicopter mom who still like drives up every weekend to see you at college. I'm so sorry.
And she's gonna like talk about how, like, you're the one true love of my life, Kevin.
Oh, she did say that. She did. She said, because I highlighted it because I was like, her feeling for Kevin was a mother's love, probably the deepest, most holy love there is. Anyway, yeah, she's gonna become too emotionally dependent on her son, and she's gonna write his name in his underwear and like be all up in his future relationship. So I feel really bad for his future partner.
But also there was a line in this book, speaking of his future relationships, where Garrett was like, I think in his letter to Teresa at the end, because like he writes one to Catherine and then he also writes one to Teresa.
Yes.
And like in it, he's like, I can't wait to watch Kevin grow up, because of course he has to, be super into Kevin because that's one of her things that she wants. Yeah. He's like, I can't wait to watch Kevin grow up, and when he finally walks down the aisle to get married, I'm like, what is the finally? Like, why are you acting like that phrasing? Like, I'm like, it would have been weird but fine if you were like, oh, and watching him walk down the aisle to get married, but the finally, like, you're all waiting for this 12-year-old to get married. It's like, he's 12.
He's 12. Let him
weird
stink and go through puberty and stuff.
And stop worrying about if he's ever gonna get married or not. Like,
get off my back, Garrett. You're dead.
You're not my real dad. You're my dead dad.
You're my dead dad. You're my drowned dad.
Although, like, honestly, can you imagine in like 10 years from now, like, Kevin is 23, he's like just graduated college, he maybe brings some girl back, and like his mom still has a fucking picture of like Garrett up on the wall or something.
Oh,
and
my God.
His girlfriend's like,
a shrine to him.
Who's that? Is that like your stepdad? And he's like, it's this my scuba instructor from when I was 12. Like, I don't know. Like, it was a weird situation. He visited us a lot.
Yeah. Or like in 20 years, Teresa would be like, hey, Kevin, do you remember that one time you saw Garrett? Who?
The love of my life, Garrett. What, Mom, what are you talking about?
Are you sure, Mom? Oh,
God. Do we have to take you to the doctor?
You're too young for this, Mom.
Oh, man. All right. So what would you have rather read this week? What's your rather be reading?
Well, my rather be reading is my library loan came in finally. So Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan.
I was actually considering that for this to be my rather be reading, because
it's like kind of a romantic book. I don't know how it ends.
I've only seen the movie. I really want to read the book, so rather be reading it. But the thing I like about that movie, and I assume the book too, is that the couple is very like a real couple who gets through situations by talking it out and working together.
Thank you. I hate when couples don't talk to each other. It's so frustrating.
All of the stuff that they go through is like external, and it's never like them being stupid and not communicate. At least in the movie, it's not like they're stupid and don't communicate, or like he's like choosing other people.
Misunderstandings.
Yeah, and it's not just like them being mad at each other for no reason,
Thank God. I just hate that trope so much. It drives me crazy. It's like this book had like two tropes that I hate. One, which is like a cheating relationship that propels the plot, and then also just like not talking to each other very well. Yeah. And then I also said Landline by Rainbow Rowell because that kind of has like a similar feel to it. Like there's a couple that's having a not so great time in their relationship, and but that one has a happier ending, I believe. So if you want a happily ever after, probably go after that one.
Yeah.
Or any Rainbow Rowell book. I know we've talked about her before, but she's just so good. How about you? Oh, no. Well, no, you said maybe Crazy Rich Asians, but what's your real one?
Yeah. Well, I had, like, a lot this week because I just have a lot that I really would, like, on my TBR list. But the one I eventually settled on as my pick
was The Perfect Letter by Chris Harrison.
Yes. You're right. That's it.
Actually, that one was better than this. But yes, go on.
Okay, so it's kind of a stretch. But it's this. So I just read this book that has a lot of romance in it. And like this, where the plot of this is essentially person finds a thing that doesn't belong to them and then goes on a quest to deal with that. That's essentially the plot of this book I just read, which is The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzi Lee.
Ah, I have heard good things about that.
So I want to read, my rather be reading is the sequel / companion novel, which is, I think it's The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy. So the first one is essentially this kid, well, he's 18, and he is going on his tour of the continent. And it's like 1700s England / the continent. And he's bringing his best friend and his sister with him. And then he has to go home and run the estate. And he's very bummed out about it for various reasons. And it deals with a lot of stuff, including gayness, race relations, asexuality.
Like class disparity, too.
Class disparity, a little bit, but not as much, I think. A little. It's more of a race thing, I think, than a class thing. And a gay thing than a class thing.
I've only just heard about it. I hadn't read it, so.
And disability it deals with, abuse, like parental abuse. So there's like a lot of
this book is doing a lot of work.
Yeah, there's a lot of like really heavy themes that I think don't always end up in like period pieces because people are like, oh, well, that's not accurate. Like people didn't have, black people didn't exist in Europe. Like, which
everything was just totally vanilla.
Right. There were no gay people before, the 60s. Like,
it was invented by the counterculture.
So like it avoids all of that, and it's also like very charming and endearing and funny and like a cute, fun read where it's like there's adventure and there's romance and there's dealing with all this heavy stuff, but not to the point where it's like despair. So like it's pretty much the exact opposite of this, where like
nice.
This book deals with nothing, but is all despair. So that's my pick for this fortnight.
I might have to read that because I was kind of on the fence about it, but it sounds good.
I enjoyed it a lot. It was like a quick read. It's a YA, but it's fun. It's a quick read.
Excellent choice.
Yeah, so that's my pick. And speaking of picks, that pretty much wraps it up for this fortnight.
Yeah.
Next fortnight.
I'm so excited about this book.
So next fortnight we're going to be doing a rewind.
Oh no, shoot.
Oh yeah, it's not your turn.
It's not my turn. Shit, now I have to wait. Okay, but I am excited about the book I'm going to pick, you guys.
Great. Good teaser for the next one. But yeah, so we're going to be doing a rewind. So we just did Da Vinci Code was Anna's high school hate read. So we're going to be doing my high school hate read. And this one is going to be a little bit different because I actually think we might like this book.
What?
And we'll get into the reasons why I hated this in high school when we get to that episode. And I'm also going to give you a choice in picking this book because there's two of them that would both work.
Okay.
So our next episode is gonna be coming out around Halloween, and this book is perfect for that. So my question to you is werewolves or vampires?
Oh my gosh. That's so hard because like I'm kind of over. Let's just do werewolves. Kind of over vampires. Let's do werewolves.
So then, in that case, we're going to read Blood and Chocolate by Annette Curtis Klaus.
What?
Have you ever heard of this?
No.
Okay, so the other one that was a possibility was The Silver Kiss, which is a vampire one.
Okay.
There is a movie. Movie, I don't think was very well received, but...
Okay. Yeah, it's got 11% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, so hopefully the book is better than that, but I did not like the book as a high schooler, and we will talk about why. But essentially it is about a girl who is a werewolf in a pack of werewolves, and she gets a crush on a boy who's not a werewolf. So we will be getting into that next fortnight.
Meat boy.
A meat boy.
Reading the description.
And
she falls in love with a human. A meat boy.
We will either confirm my high school beliefs that it is shitty. Here's the thing. We will either hate it for different reasons than why I hated it in high school, or it might end up being good. But either way, we will be talking about it next fortnight.
And it's only 264 pages.
Yeah, it's a quick one. So y'all can read along if you want.
Please do.
Okay, so that's pretty much it for this episode. If you know which Nicholas Sparks novel involves the love interest donating his organs to a small child, please tweet at us. You can tweet at us at HateReadcast or email us hatereadcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, and give us other Nicholas Sparks books that aren't Nicholas Sparks books.
Yeah.
I really want this genre to become a thing.
As always, thank you to Ben Cope for the use of our theme song. You can find a link to his YouTube in the show notes below.
Yes. And if you are listening to us, which you are, you should subscribe to us on whatever platform it is you're using to aggregate all of your podcasts. And if it is on iTunes, leave us that 5-star review so that more people can find out about us.
Also, if you have been listening to us on a app that you dislike but would have liked to be listening to us on Spotify, we are on Spotify now. So just FYI.
That's fancy. We're like a real podcast now. We're on Spotify. Dang.
They lowered their standards.
Oh man, we are there with the likes of Serial, This American Life.
Yeah. In
the words of Nicholas Sparks, I was running so fast, I almost wet my pants. Like, what does that even mean? I have never run so fast I felt like I was gonna pee.
He's not a good writer.
He's not a good writer, and he's also not good at his bodily functions.
But a while ago on Twitter, there was like some debate going around in the romance writing community about Nicholas Sparks.
Yes.
And, there's a man. There's a man entering.
Michael, thank you for the food delivery.
Maybe now you'll say something nice about me.
No. And then the dog barfed. Great. All of you get out.
Well, there's our stinger.
All of you get out.
Oh man. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. I'll try to talk a little bit so you can eat.
No. You're fine. You're fine. Just I'll be very quiet, and then you can mute all my nom 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 sounds.
So many mouth noises.
At least it's soft and not crunchy.